Good morning and welcome to WTF, where we transform food here at the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen. I'm home cook hot mess Mark Verchette.
And I'm Scott Guerin, the research and development chef here at Modernist Pantry.
And today we're talking about one of my favorite, actually I'm not gonna lie, my favorite ingredient in the Modernist Pantry catalog, the Druids Grove Vegan Gelatin. This was my introduction to the company and to your cooking skills. So this WTF is a particularly special one, and thank you for being here for it.
You're welcome.
So here's what's really cool about this. This is vegan gelatin, but tell us a little bit about normal gelatin, what that's used for, and then where the vegan gelatin comes in.
So we'll kind of go over how normal gelatin is used. Normal gelatin would need to be bloomed in water. If you're using sheet gelatin, you would wring it out and then add it to something and heat it up. Or if it's gelatin powder, you would sprinkle it over the water, bloom it so that it hydrates, and then add it to your that water to your mixture, heat it up, and then eventually, after you heat it and cool it, it will make a gel. So that's the basis of what gelatin does. Now this works in a similar way as it does make a gel, but you need to use it in a slightly different way. You don't just bloom it. If I were to sprinkle this over water, it would start to clump up because it loves water so much. So I'm actually going to do a demo right now because I need people to see just the difference between it. Because if it is a one-to-one replacement for regular gelatin, but it's not a one-to-one replacement on the method of those recipes. So if you just take a recipe that has gelatin, you wouldn't be able to use this in the exact same way. You would get a very similar result, but you wouldn't be able to use it in the exact same way. So what I'm going to do, the biggest thing you should do with this is if you have a lot of dry ingredients. So here I have sorbitol. Sorbitol is a sugar alcohol. It's going to help sweeten our gummies without raising the calories through the roof. So, So I have the vegan gelatin here, and I'm just going to pour it in. And then I also have, right here is citric acid, so it's going to help with acidity and flavor.
Now we'll talk about that in a second, about why the acidity is pretty important.
And then this is sodium citrate, and sodium citrate acts as a buffer, because vegan gelatin, it's not the biggest fan of acid. And I know I added acid to this for flavor, but I need to add this to my water to help buffer that, to allow the vegan gelatin to actually work. So,
and I think it's kind of important to point out that you are mixing all your dry ingredients first, whereas normal gelatin you might just...
So the reason why I do that is that I'm dispersing that vegan gelatin into a large amount of sugar or sorbitol or whatever you're mixing it in. It can be a small amount too. It just helps break it up and evenly mix it with the water. Yeah. Now this looks like a lot, but if I take this here, and this is just some liquid that I have, get all that sodium citrate in there, and you'll see it just mixes in very easily. And it won't clump. And the last thing I have to do is have a little bit of flavor. And we're just making vegan gum. So if I were to make this and then pour it into a large mold, as you can show them right there, we're going to have a giant gummy bear. And you can see one that I already have made through the magic of television, or internet television.
The magic of internet television.
Yes. I love it. So very simply, and you can see it's a nice fluid here.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to pour it right into a pot, and I'm going to bring it up to a simmer. The reason why we bring it up to a simmer is that it needs to activate. So when I heat it up, it's going to hydrate, which pretty much just means dissolve.
Yeah.
It's going to dissolve all those little bits of vegan gelatin, and then when I cool it, it's going to turn into a gel.
Now, temperature-wise, am I looking for, would we be looking for a different temperature than we would be looking at say, a traditional gelatin recipe? Like, is that a modification to watch?
Yeah, so absolutely. When you're using vegan gelatin, it gels just like gelatin.
Sure.
But the properties are slightly different. So it's going to, let me just clean up here a little bit. It's going to gel a lot quicker than regular gelatin. If you ever made like a Jell-O dessert, you would take it, you'd pour it into the glass molds, and you put it in the refrigerator, and your kids would stare at them for 3 to 4 hours before they're even ready. They start to gel.
Or until the end of the episode in this case.
Yeah. So you can snack all you want.
Okay.
With this, once it hits 140 degrees, it could still be pretty warm to the touch. it will still be warm to the touch, but it will be gelled.
Yeah.
So this happens a lot faster. So you can have dessert ready. You can make this almost a la minute. You can make it and have it ready when it hits the table. So it's pretty good. As long as you're doing it in small amounts, like if you're making gums or whatnot.
Yeah, like this, you know, a mold this big, that'd take a while, but not really. This took, what, like 20 minutes in the ice bath, if that?
Yeah, as long as it was set up and then I could pop it out and you can see it right here. I made one this morning.
And that's when you go with like the aggressive giant gummy bears. When you're doing the little drops, it's way faster.
Yeah, it's all how long it takes the cold temperatures to get through to the center. So it's very easy. So we can just see it heating up right now. Now, this works with a lot of different recipes. It doesn't just have to be a gum or like a jello style dessert. This can replace, and I know you get the recipe when you actually order this product, gelatin that's usually found in marshmallows.
Yes! That's how I met this product.
Yes.
And you were like, look, vegan marshmallows. And I was like, wow, life changed.
And they're not dense.
No.
The only additive that you add is a Versa Whip, which helps with the kind of the fluffiness of the marshmallows. But you get a beautiful vegan marshmallow that tastes just like a normal marshmallow. I wouldn't.
Yeah, and if you have a friend with a freeze dryer like we have, it was the world's largest Lucky Charms marshmallow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them too. About 5 pounds of it.
So one of the things you'll notice while that's kind of getting, well, it's doing its thing, is we've got our mold in an ice bath. That's not necessarily a recipe thing. That's a, you know, these aren't a Modernist Pantry mold. This was just something we picked up. You notice it's the plastic molds, not the silicone molds. That was a learning experience.
Yep.
Because the first one we made looked like a pug.
Yeah. So this does heat up quite warm, and if you see it on the overhead, you can see it. I'm coming up to well over boiling temperature. There's so much sugar alcohol in here that it's going to need to come up a little bit higher. So I poured it into the mold, and the first time I ended up with almost nothing. So I just put it in a little bit of ice bath, and that's going to really help it set almost immediately.
Yeah. Now, if you happen to have a silicone mold, these ones do come from Modernist Pantry. Actually, I can do one-to-one. That's what you used for the small gummies, right?
Yes.
Definitely want to treat yourself to the silicone mold over a cheap plastic mold. You'll just have a much better time with it. You won't have to worry about the mold melting on you. Plus, super, super, super reusable for all of your things.
And one thing that's different about these is you don't have to dust with cornstarch or anything like that. You can. It helps get them out, but I was able to just pour it right in there very easily and then pop them out within maybe 10 minutes because they set up so quickly.
Yeah.
So it's good because we wanted to show people how to use this product. We had, I think, a few comments last week about, hey, you're going to do a demo. And we won't be able to do one every single week because some things are a lot more difficult and a lot more time consuming. But this is so simple. We want to show you how simple it is that you can make a gummy. Now, it won't set up unless we want to sit here for about 10, 20 minutes at the end.
We're all friends. We'll have good conversation.
But we'll show you that once I get it in there and then give it about 10, 20 minutes, you can have a giant gummy bear to show off for your friends.
For those of you playing at home, yes, this means that we will have access to 2 giant gummy bears. So if you're in the area, I don't know, call us.
So if traditional gelatin is made from animal-based products, this is actually made from red seaweed. So it's whatever gives the seaweed its structure. You extract that and you. Sorry, our phone's ringing.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, nice call. So whatever gives the red seaweed its structure, it's extracted and it gives the gelatin its structure. And as we can see right here, I'm getting a nice boil on our vegan gelatin gums. So I'm just going to stop it. I'm going to let it cool down just a little bit before I pop it into the mold. I don't want to pour it in directly because it's so hot at this point. I don't want to melt any bit of this mold because I do want to reuse it.
We'll have another puggy bear.
Yes.
So we did say it comes from in this case it's a red seaweed.
Yes.
There are other seaweeds that if you just were to Google vegan gelatin, agar is kind of a commonly used one. This one's not. Well, one, it's easier to use than agar, certainly.
Yeah, it's about the same as agar. It's just all dealing with the texture.
Yeah.
Because we want the texture that's going to simulate traditional gelatin as closely as possible.
Yeah.
If you want to just show them the Jello dessert that
Check out the wiggle in this jiggle, guys.
So it's crystal clear.
Yeah.
And it jiggles, but it has a nice creaminess that is very similar to gelatin.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I really like about this, is that it's not just for items that have gelatin in them.
Yeah.
I like to kind of replace a little bit of like eggs that are in custards for vegan custards and things like that, because you get that texture. If you mix it with soy milk, you really get like a beautiful, almost, you know, creme brulee kind of flan, which you've had, and things like that. You can make some really amazing things. So it's not just a one-trick pony. It doesn't just simulate gelatin. It simulates a lot of different things. And I think the testing will really show over time is like, well, how versatile this is.
Yeah, and just the big things to look out for is make sure you dry mix it first, no matter the recipe. I know we're going to keep hitting on that a lot. It's because otherwise, as soon as it hits water, it does like clump. As long as you dry mix it even with the sugar that's in your recipe or whatever, it'll be wonderful and it behaves very well.
So I just want to show everyone that it's nice and fluid. It's not clumpy. If it does clump up for some reason, it may be that you did the recipe wrong, or the recipe ratio was wrong that you got. We do have a few recipes that we are putting out there for you guys. If you go to vegan gelatin, if you search for vegan gelatin on modernistpantry.com, you'll see this exact recipe right below it. So it has all the links to the ingredients and a very base recipe that you can make any flavor that you want.
Yep, super simple. I introduced myself as Home Kitchen Hot Mess. I do mean it. And even I pulled off this gummy recipe, no problem.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna actually pour it right in. So I'm just gonna fill the base. There we go.
Gummy-Bears.
Made a half gummy for you to take home.
That's fine, yeah, it's 2 full gummies is a bit much.
Great.
And I don't want to look like the vegan gelatin. All right, so to kind of play around with it and get going with it, vegan gelatin, just to do the quick break, it's $15.99 for this 4 ounce. To put that in perspective for the home cook, that's 16 packets of traditional gelatin's worth. So you do get quite a bit of playtime out of this, whether you're going for confections. It's also kind of good. We were talking, we were chatting about gelatin uses, about including it in your stocks, right? Yes. This is something you do even with traditional stocks to add a little bit more of that mouthfeel. Yeah,
so if you get like a canned veggie stock or whatnot from the grocery store, and you add a little bit of this, and obviously I would dry mix it with maybe a little bit of salt or something, or if you want to, you can put it in a blender and then slowly sprinkle this in if you're not adding any other ingredients. So that's another easy way to add it. So I would do that and then heat it up. It will add a little bit of viscosity to it when it's nice and hot. This is usually done in very small amounts, so you don't want it to turn into a thick Jello, because no veggie stock is ever going to be thick Jello.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, exactly.
But for that nice little bonus and mouthfeel that you typically lose, especially I make my own stock, and it's watery, but because it's all veggie stuff, and this really helps quite a bit. So. All right. So this is going to set up for a little bit while we stare at it longingly. We always, in these WTFs, talk about not only where we transform food, but what's the food, and we talk about what's the food made better, what's the food made possible. You may have noticed this in our last episodes. This one's probably going to be a little bit different, because with vegan gelatin, it's all about what's the food made possible. And in this case, it's everything that would traditionally rely on that gelatin, that animal-based gelatin, with just a reliable one-to-one replacement.
So here's a little thing, is that each one of those packets from, like if you bought a powdered gelatin and it comes in packets, each one of those packets is 7 grams. So this is exactly 7 grams. And I believe it's a teaspoon that's in one of those packets as well. So if you see a recipe that says, add 1 packet of whatever gelatin, powdered gelatin, if you take 7 grams of this or a teaspoon and you add it in, and in just the way I showed you, I wouldn't bloom, if the recipe says to bloom, disregard, because you're using something slightly different. So if you add this in, you're going to get the same thickness as you would in the traditional recipe, because it is a one-to-one replacement. Yeah,
and now that you've kind of seen it done, you'll know what to look for when you cook it, but I gotta tell you, because I don't have the polyscience wonderfulness, an instant read thermometer goes a long way, especially just for your first time working with it, until you get used to the feel and how it looks when you're whisking it through the pan. So an instant read thermometer. The Druids Grove Vegan Gelatin is, if you can see it on this side here, it is organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, and vegan, so that checks all the boxes for making amazing, amazing things, and this is a really, really fun ingredient. All right, anything else we want to say on it?
No, to be honest, I think it's one of my favorite ingredients as well, just because it's so versatile, and I've been able to make a lot of really great vegan alternatives to many items. So.
Awesome. All right, so modernistpantry.com. Just search vegan gelatin in the search bar at modernistpantry.com. That'll get you to find it from Druids Grove. It is a wonderful, wonderful thing to play around with. Thank you so much for joining us on WTF, where we transform food. If you like this, that's what the like button's for. And wherever you're watching this, be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and please leave your comments so that we can hit the kind of ingredients or recipes you want, or even make this show better and better. This demo was because last week, a few of you asked, I gotta do a demo. Yeah, because you asked for it. So please keep leaving those comments. And if you really love recipes, be sure to also subscribe to the Modernist Pantry email list. You'll find that also at modernistpantry.com and blog.modernistpantry.com. Thank you very much and have a fantastic day.